It is the KORNer Booth pregame show, KORN News Radio, FM 101.3 and AM 1490. Our weekly pregame show. I'm Travis Kriens, Sports Director, KORN. Also the Mitchell Republic, our sports writers, Marcus Traxler and Landon Dierks. Mitchell football coming up tonight. We've got Mitchell at Spearfish and the rest of 11AA, a brand new number one team in 11AA. Media poll on Monday. It is the Yankton Bucks. We take a look back at last week. Another class also has a new number one team in the media poll, and it's been a quick ascent here for Marion Freeman Academy. Number one team this week in 9AA. Game of the week last week was their matchup versus then number one Elkton Lake Benton, and Freeman put up 42 points. They beat Elkton Lake Benton 42-28. So after Freeman knocks off Parkston week one, they then take out number one Elkton Lake Benton last week. Quarterback Riley Cheddar, 2 touchdowns, passing to rushing, threw for nearly 200 yards. Luke Peters had 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Freeman, they have passed the tests. Hamlin at 2, Elkton Lake Benton drops to number 3. But Freeman, this was the big test, Landon, and they are the real deal. They still have a few tests here in the second half of their season, but they have been maybe the most impressive team here, considering who they have played in 9-man football so far.
Yeah, when you think about they beat Parkston, Bonhomme, and Elkton Lake Benton, all three of those teams are 2-1, and of course that one loss coming to the Phoenix. So nothing to scoff at there. You know, we tend to think that Parkston and Elkton Lake Benton are very good teams. Maybe Bonhomme just a slight step below that, but I don't know that anyone has 3 as impressive wins as Freeman here early on.
I would completely agree.
Yep.
I mean, these are 3 of the better teams that we expect in the playoff picture before the season's done. And on the contrary, you look at who's still ahead of them. Their next 4 opponents are not terribly difficult. I would expect Marion Freeman Academy to be a pretty heavy favorite in all of those games. And then the 8th game would be a crossover game in the Great Plains Conference. So
they played Avon last year in that final regular season game, so we'll see who they get matched up with this year.
Yeah, and I know Platte Geddes is in there because they were 1 team short, so that's potentially an option as well. And maybe even Corsica Stickney. I would think it'll be a 9A or 9AA team, but I don't know that for sure. So I just think they've been, obviously they have the offense, and I think you're going to need some offense to be successful, no question, but the defense has done a good enough job. I think that's where they made the most progress in the first 3 games. So really impressive from what they've seen. The wins they've gotten are, I mean, not that it's not a selection committee that's deciding how it's seeded, but I think they have a resume that's worth being a number 1 seed when we get to October.
Yeah, good wins so far. They've got Gayville-Vollen this week. Gayville-Vollen without a win at 0-2. They've got an Alcester-Hudson game next week. Alcester-Hudson and Viborg-Hurley, top 5 matchup, AA versus 9A game coming up on Friday. So, Alcester-Hudson, a quality team in 9A. You look at also, let's go to 11B. Number 1, Elk Point Jefferson defeated Mount Vernon Plankington last week, 32-14. EPJ, they've got a big game. They can, I don't want to say knock Winner out, but bruise up the Winner Warriors. That game at Winner on Friday night, number 1 versus number 4. And Winner, again, just their defense. They gave up 22 to Groton, 36-22. We've touched on Winner the past couple of weeks. That first game against Hot Springs was close. The loss versus Wagner. And, I mean, this is a team that gives up like 22 points in a regular season or a playoff run, and they're giving up multiple touchdowns each and every week.
And some of these touchdowns have been big plays, or it's been big plays that have set those up. So that's happened more than 1 week. I would say with Wagner, a lot of their touchdowns I know were shorter touchdowns, but they were able to move the ball on them. That was the one big question we had about that matchup, and I don't expect Groton area to be a state title contender. So for that to be how that game unfolded, I think it's dangerous. I think these next really 3-4 games are dangerous for Winner, and I think there's not going to be a ton of easy games until they get into later in the schedule here. If I'm reading this here, they play 9 games. They don't have a bye week, so that's interesting. But we sometimes fall in love with the brand names because that's what we have to go off of. We've seen what they've done in the past. It reminds you that it's a new group of players. I think we talked about in the preseason, they lost 20 seniors or somewhere in that territory. And maybe we underestimated how difficult it would be to replace those players. I will still maintain until we get to playoffs that they will be a tough out. And it doesn't mean they're going to win a state championship this year, but nobody's going to be thrilled to see, oh, we got Winner on our side of our bracket, or we got to play Winner in the first round. But the prospect of Winner having to go on the road potentially in the postseason is definitely intriguing.
And you have Winner where you're probably going to have to play one of these teams, whether it's Wagner or Elk Point Jefferson. You're going to have to play them along the way somewhere. You're going to have that rematch with Winner. So, as far as seeding, as far as having a road playoff game later on in the year, definitely important for Winner. They host Elk Point Jefferson, and if EPJ can win this, that kind of solidifies them as number one in 11B. If not, you've got Wagner and St. Thomas More waiting in the background. So really a big game to kind of see if Elk Point Jefferson solidifies themselves at the top of 11B.
Yeah, I was in Mount Vernon for EPJ's game against the Titans last week, and they made a couple mistakes. Gave the ball away a couple times on some fumbles, but for the most part, they're the EPJ team that we've been accustomed to the last several years. That they're going to run the ball right at you, do what they do, and they do it pretty well.
You mentioned St. Thomas More, and they have 5 games left on their schedule. The combined record of those opponents is 0-11 right now. So St. Thomas More is probably going to be 8-0, and I think this is going to be a pretty competitive situation for these top 2 seeds, which is the threshold for having home field until you get to the Dakota Dome. So there's pressure on Wagner. Certainly Wagner's not out of the loop either in terms of finishing their season 8-0, but I think it's going to be, you've got 3 really good teams. Mobridge Pollock has been quietly impressive at 2-0, have not played necessarily the caliber of teams we've talked about. Dual seems like they're always a 2-0, 3-0 team at some point. So we got a few undefeateds left here, but I think Elk Point Jefferson so far and Wagner have been the 2 teams that have really asserted themselves.
KORNer Booth, the pregame show and a podcast. Again, you can listen back to it on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. And I do like in 11B, you have Winner, EPJ, and Wagner, and they all play each other during the regular season. October 3rd is when you've got Wagner going to Elk Point Jefferson. So it's nice to see those regular season matchups. Yeah,
that's true. That potential race for the number 1 seed will be decided there. But my point would be St. Thomas More might be the team that sneaks in there. Yeah. Because I was looking to see if they played any more tough teams, and they really don't. They have 5 very opponents that they're capable of beating. So,
for what it's worth, obviously still a long way to go, but Winner currently in 10th position in the standings, even though they're 2-1. So a lot of ground to make up there.
Just an overall take that I would have is that you look at a team when they get to the end of the season, you look at who they played, and you look at where they end up in the seed points. It doesn't feel like they always get rewarded for the type of schedule you play. So that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be 5-3 or 6-2 or even 7-1, 8-1, I guess it could be, since they're going to play 9 games. It doesn't feel like that team always gets rewarded for playing the schedule they played. Mm-hmm. And again, they will be the most dangerous 10 seed in the history of the Class 11B playoffs if that's where they end up.
Yeah, there's a lot of these teams that were championship teams are at the Dome last year with Howard and Parkston and Winner and Pierre getting off to rough starts and kind of riding the ship, and everybody's waiting, for these teams to see how they develop and how they get better during the year.
And just to close the loop on Winner, I mentioned the big play propensity on defense. It doesn't seem like they have the home run striking on offense necessarily. Now, that's always kind of been Winner. They're perfectly fine with 5 yards at a time, but they have always had the running backs that could break off 60, 70, 40-yard touchdown runs. And I know there's been a few of those so far, but not quite to the clip. They're not as dominant up front and with the running backs as I maybe thought they were going to be.
And as far as we'll continue to take a look back, but looking ahead to this week, as far as area, there's not a whole lot. There's been really big area games these past couple of weeks. You've got a couple of them, but the Wagner games, the games with Freeman. It seems like those teams, easier schedules. It's not 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3. It's not season-defining games, at least for a lot of these teams this week.
That's true. Landon and I, we typically, so stuff we write, we end up looking at the week ahead.
Hanson Parkson's always a good.
There's 3 games in the area this week that are really interesting games, I think. You mentioned Wagner. They're playing Mount Vernon Plankington, coming to Mount Vernon. Hanson Parkston is always a good game. And then I think Avon at Korska-Stickney, just because that's going to be a litmus test for both those teams. So, but after that, yeah, it's not as clear-cut in terms of the quality of the matchups.
We do have a couple of those games, our area games of the week. It's Corn Country 92-1. It's number 2 Avon at Korska-Stickney at 7 o'clock. And then Hanson Parkston on Q1073. Hanson's homecoming this week. That'll be kind of, where do those teams fit in maybe that 5 or 6 spots for 9AA. And then we do have the Mitchell Colonel game on KORN at Spearfish.
It's not like college where you kind of maybe try to really get a certain opponent for homecoming. It's Hanson gets the team that played in the state championship the last couple of years, and it's not like you get to play Purdue this week. You get to play they're playing whoever you would call in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan. They're playing that caliber of opponent. So,
and the big stunner, the big headliner from last week was Huron beating Pierre 13-7. Another game in which it appears the Pierre offense couldn't get much going. 9 points versus Aberdeen in week 1, and then 7 in pretty nice conditions on the turf at Huron. The pick 6 with about a minute to go to win it. I was thinking, okay, it was 13-7. Was it like 7-6? And they threw a pick 6? No, it was tied at 7 with about a minute to go, and then Pierre throws the interception. Trying to win it in regulation. They had the ball approaching midfield, but
they got down to like the 15-yard line at the end of the game.
They got close.
But ran out of time.
Needed the touchdown.
Yeah.
So, this is 2 weeks in a row where the Pierre offense, they've combined for 16 points. And again, another situation where they may lose 4 or 5 games here, but then when it comes to playoff time, like last year, somebody's going to have to knock them out here before they get to the championship. And I'm very interested in Pierre at Watertown this week because maybe a week ago you're looking, all right, Watertown, tough start for them at 0-2. And now going into that game, I would expect Watertown to get that first win at home.
You got 2 teams.
I think so.
You got 2 teams that are desperate because somebody's always got to go in that matchup. So, I guess Pierre won the first week, but this is going to be both these teams are going to be desperate to show that what's happened in the first 2 weeks is not who they are. Just to sort of illuminate how a Friday night goes for Landon and I, there were 2 games last week that we had to go back and watch how these games ended. This was one of them. The other was Parker over Flandreau in 4 overtimes, 26-20. Landon was freaking out with how that game ended because it was wild.
It's kind of fun.
And the announcers were freaking out, which was half the interest.
This is not their fault, but the stream and the audio was not quite synced up.
Yeah. So what was ahead of what?
The audio.
The audio was
ahead.
A second and a half probably ahead of.
On that last play, it felt like 3 seconds.
It did because just the ball was hanging in the air. Yeah. And then shout out to the Parker announcer, not sure who it was, but just said holy buckets about 12 times, and that pretty much encapsulated the moment.
It's funny when you get reminded, what happens? Because obviously college has the goofy 2-point rules in overtime. There isn't that in high school.
I like it.
Keep going, first and goal from the 10 in each period. So, but to your point, I was pretty stunned that Huron knocked off Pierre. I think Pierre, some of the things we just said about Winner could be said about Pierre's offense. I think it's clear their defense is very solid, and I think there's a lot of offensively challenged teams in Class 11 AA when they get put into a tough spot. But and that defense will keep Pierre in a lot of games. I don't think they're going to be 2-4 like they were through 6 games, but I guess you never know at this rate because
I think they are.
Now they're going to get into a really tough stretch of games.
Yes.
But offensively, they just have not been where they need to be, and quite frankly, the pick 6 at the end of the game kind of foretold the J.J. McCarthy Bears pick 6 on Monday because it was very similar of just we're throwing this out route, and that kid was all over it for Huron.
Yeah, to your point, I do agree that the Pierre defense will probably keep them in basically every game they play. But 8 points a game is not going to cut it.
Not going to work.
If you can't put some of these teams away,
can't win with them.
Can't win with them.
At the end of the day, right? These are high school kids. The mistakes are going to be made. You're kind of setting yourself up for a couple of situations like a freaky end to that Huron game moving forward.
There should be a disclaimer or a station ID thing during this show that reminds us they are high school kids. These things do happen. It gets a little erratic from time to time.
Pierre playing a Watertown team that has given up 103 points through 2 weeks.
Look at who they played, Travis.
They've played Jeff over in Sioux Falls, Jefferson.
No, they played that game in
Watertown. Was at
home.
Yeah.
Oh, they played Jefferson, then they played at Yankton last week.
Allen Mitchell Field. How could you forget?
Very easily.
It's your favorite place you've never been.
Hopefully, in the next couple of years, we can head up there. At Yankton, 52-26. Yankton, your new number 1. I think this is a much more important game for Pierre to win because of the upcoming schedule. Pierre has winnable games at the very end, but Pierre's at Watertown on Friday. They host Brookings for homecoming next week, and then they've got at Yankton and at O'Gorman. So you mentioned 2-4 last year. You're staring at maybe a 2-4 start this year. Meanwhile, Watertown, Mitchell, Douglas the next couple weeks once they get done with this Pierre game. So Watertown at least will be favored in the next couple of weeks. But a couple of rematches this week from title games, this being one of them. And if Pierre can't score against Watertown, even though they've given up 50 points these past couple games against really good competition, it's going to be at least a long regular season for Pierre to try and figure things out.
Well, you said you don't think Pierre's going to be 2-4 after 6 games.
I think they are.
What if I told you they're 0-6?
They have 1 win.
1-5.
I just made that mistake.
Sorry.
I just made that mistake.
Dang it.
If Brookings can go
What
up
if
there
they're
next week?
What if they're 1-5?
Could happen, I guess.
Yeah, going on the road again.
None of these next 4 are gimmies.
I do tend to think that I realize, Brookings just scored 40 points on Mitchell, but I tend to think Brookings and Pierre are going to be a relatively evenly matched matchup. So
that's 100% me kind of just overreacting to the...
Well, and even, Sturgis and Spearfish coming up at the end of the regular season. If Pierre, that's another test for Pierre of, okay, where are you in this thing? Are you like...
is it Spearfish beat him last year in the regular season? It was very close. Yeah, so...
At Spearfish, and they host Sturgis, and those teams have been not bad.
Sturgis have been plucky. Spearfish has been as well.
3, doing season previews.
You go to Yankton, you go to O'Gorman.
Yeah, those were 2 losses there, so Pierre's got some work to do. If I were to tell you preseason, if we had a hot take, a scolding hot take, I were to say, you know what, Marcus? 3 weeks into this thing, Pierre and Winner are going to be unranked. That's very well going to happen next. Yeah. If they both lose on Friday, they will both be outside the top 5, which is stunners. Those are the 2 teams of the past 10 years. Who's dominated high school football in the state? It's been Pierre. It's been Winner. Pierre's got Watertown. That's the more winnable game, I think, between the 2. And Winner hosting EPJ at number 1. If they both lose those, the voters are not going to put them in the top 5.
I would say just for my ballot, if Winner plays well and loses, I will probably still have him 5th.
Probably.
That's my philosophy. So, hey, be good.
But it's all going to depend on how the game goes. If they get rocked 42-6, I gotta start putting Mulbridge Pollock in there. I gotta start considering some other teams.
Yeah, and Pierre at 4. They're both at 4 this week. So if they lose, maybe knocking them outside the top 5.
And I don't know about you guys, but I thought ranking 11 AA this week was kind
of get that dartboard out and start throwing at it, because it was hard to figure out exactly what the order should be.
I had Yankton 1, T Area 2, and after that, I'm just not sure.
Yeah,
I'd put Brookings in the top 5. Huron's at 5, Pierre's at 4, Sturgis at number 3.
Let me just, for the record, I'm always like to be transparent, so let me find what I did.
It was like people like, Yankton 1, T2, and then
I had Yankton 1, T2, Watertown 3, Huron 4, and Pierre 5. So I had no 1-2 team at number 3.
I don't think I'm ranking Sturgis either, even though they're 2-0. Give me a second.
And it's the same thing of like, well, you beat an 11 AAA team, but like, right? Didn't they beat one of the Rapid State teams last week?
And they beat Sturgis.
Spearfish did.
Spearfish did. Okay.
Sturgis beat Brookings.
Sturgis beat Brookings in the first week.
To match Marcus's transparency, Yankton, T Area, Brookings, Spearfish, Huron. For me, I don't have Pierre in the top 5.
Yeah. Brookings hosts Aberdeen this week, so I think I would put. I think I'm going to vote this week. I'm going to go down to the.
Ain't that going to be? Go down to your ballot box.
Go to the courthouse.
Polling place. Yeah.
Where do I vote for the football polls?
Are you registered?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's a deadline.
Going to go to the courthouse.
Yeah. Show your voter ID.
Monday at noon. Yep. Probably they're open Sundays, right?
They're not. No.
Okay. Well, that changes my plans. KORNer booth, pregame show, and podcast. Other area teams from last week: Parkston beat Kimball White Lake 26-14. Mason Jervik with 3 touchdowns.
They all happened while I was there.
Boom, boom, boom. Then you left and nothing happened.
Then I left. He almost ran me over when he caught a touchdown pass, and that was my cue.
Were you on the field?
I didn't get ran over, and I told I had a few of our listeners. One of our listeners was heckling us, and heckling me, and I said I didn't get run over, and so
good for him.
That was my cue, and there was work to be done, so that's why I had to leave. But
yes, we appreciate the Parkston listeners. Bridgewater Emory Ethan over Lee Deadwood 32-6. Hanson beat DeSmit by 40, 48-8. Avon 48-0 over Burke. A lot of blowouts last week. McCook Central Montrose beat Beersford 38-0. Corsica Stickney put up 50 over Trip Delmont Armor. Andy Central Dakota Christian 50-14. Canastota with the win over Iroquois Lake Preston 30-12. And Bonholm beat Scotland Menno 50-14. So not a lot of blowouts last week. Some of those area teams, again, Freeman, Marion, Freeman Academy, though, with that big victory. We'll take a timeout and we'll preview this week and look back at the 10th annual Colonel Bowl. Started off pretty good, and then the third quarter happened. Then that was not so good news for the Mitchell Colonels. So it's the Corner Booth Podcast. It's brought to you by Jimmy John's, Marlin's Family Restaurant, and James Valley Landscape Solutions.
Feeling hungry but not sure what for? The buffet at Marlin's is the perfect choice. So many mouth-watering options, everyone will find something they crave, and no one leaves hungry. Marlin's offers a breakfast buffet on Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 2, a lunch buffet Monday through Fridays from 11 to 2, then a dinner buffet Friday and Saturday from 5 to 9. And don't forget, kids eat free on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's Marlin's Family Restaurant in Mitchell.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
Fall isn't the end of the growing season. It's the beginning of next year's beautiful landscape. At James Valley Garden Center, they make fall planting easy. Trees, shrubs, perennials. They all take root better in cool weather, and their team is ready to help you with expert advice. James Valley Garden Center is your local trusted partner for all things outdoors, season after season. James Valley Garden Center at 600 West Spruce. Let's go outside.
It is the Corner Booth pregame show. Mitchell football coming up here at 7 o'clock tonight. 7 Central at Spearfish. Mitchell at 1-1, coming off the 10th annual Colonel Bowl on Saturday nights. Down against Brookings, 13-0 at halftime. Mitchell had opportunities to score some touchdowns. And the third quarter happened. Brookings scores 3 touchdowns very, very quickly. About a 78-yard touchdown to start the second half on the very first play from scrimmage for the Brookings offense. 40-0 was the final, and very similar to last year's game in Brookings, where it was a 34-0 Bobcat win. This game was a lot closer than your normal, 5 or 6 touchdown margin. And I guess the big thing, Landon, is that Mitchell's offense looked good, but again, there's this invisible wall at the goal line. They just got to score some points, and they had a couple of fourth down opportunities, and very well could have had maybe a lead at halftime.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway, especially from the first half, is Mitchell went on sustained drives of 12 plays, 61 yards, and 13 plays, 53 yards, and combined to get no points out of it. That's just a pretty tough break there. You'd expect at least one of those drives to have produced something on the scoreboard, and I mean that's got to be a little bit demoralizing at some level. And I think in the second half, they went on an 8-play drive that covered, 30-ish yards as well. And so, I don't know if you want to say unlucky, but there is kind of an element to that where, you feel like at some point one of these has got to get to the end zone, but just didn't happen on Saturday.
I mean, there's a reason you don't see teams ripping off 19-play, 80-yard scoring drives. It's hard to do. It's hard to not make that much progress and run that many plays. And I just felt like they were just kind of stringing it along. I mean, when they needed 3 yards, they were getting 4 there for a while. And they didn't feel like they were... Could you say that they were threatening the end zone, really?
Yes, yeah.
But I mean...
Twice, yeah.
It wasn't like they got down... What was the furthest they got down? Inside the 10? I don't think...
Yeah, they got... the one for the first fourth down was a pass to Colton Smith in the end zone. They lined them up wide left.
True. Yeah.
You're looking at it one-on-one.
That's right. I had... Sometimes you have the phone up, and I was getting the highlights of the play, and you get blindness from that. So I do remember that, and he thought he got interfered with, and he didn't. But
and you're looking at that. I mean, perfect pass.
Yeah, it was there.
From Jackson Hartman may have gotten, defender made a good play, but you're looking at that fourth down. You're like, maybe they're going to do it, and they did. Colton Smith doesn't have a catch yet, but you figure those are coming.
I think that other drive stalled out around the 15, 20-yard line, somewhere in there. So yeah, my point stands that they just had to work way too hard to try to score. And again, when there's no big playability against a team that's got a relatively good defense like Brookings, they were just having a hard time creating the holes, blocking the plays well enough up, or having the explosiveness to just make things that count. And then you look at it on the defensive side, just too many big play scoring plays from Brookings. They had 3 drives where they scored in 3 plays or less, and every scoring drive they had was from at least 40 yards out. So I don't know what to say about that other than you're making the offense is working too hard and you're making the defense work too hard, and just not enough good stuff was happening for Mitchell on that front. And unfortunately, just back into the pit of shutouts like we had way too many of those. We saw too many of those last season.
It's at least 3 in a row against Brookings in terms of like one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because they shut Brookings out 2 years ago.
Late at home,
And
that's proof that it can change, but I'm also looking at this. Brookings, 8 of 10 on third downs. So Mitchell having a hard time getting off the field.
Bergen Tetzloff.
I mean...
Yeah, we cover enough double-A ball in here. Let's say it. That kid is a monster.
Yeah,
I think he's got a future playing college football in old Brookings.
Bergen Tetzloff, tight end, defensive lineman, 6'5", 230,
Wildcat
240.
quarterback.
Yeah, they line him up.
Mitchell can't defend that.
Nobody.
There are many teams that can probably defend
Mitchell,
that.
I saw him against Mitchell. Mitchell can't do anything about that.
This play that, I don't know if they ran this against Sturgis. They line up Bergen Tetzloff, 6'5", it looks like a man out there, in a Wildcat formation, 3rd and short, 4th and short. I don't know how anybody would stop this. You have 7 linemen, and then you have 3 backs in the backfield to his left, like 3 fullbacks to his left. I've never seen that formation before.
You weren't alive in the 1930s and 40s
wasn't.
to watch that happen, because, that's your student body left, student body right. We're just going to snap it, and everybody's going to go.
And there's no reason to have a quarterback in that. There's no reason to hand it off. You snap it right to Tetzloff, and he only had 2 runs for 18, and then this 3rd run only went for 4. But one of them I think was a touchdown, another one 10, 12 yards.
It was a touchdown and 2 first downs.
That's if you have
And I'm guessing at some point in the season we'll see a Tim Tebow
could be
pop pass to the tight end who's going to be wide open.
So I like that play for Brookings, and if they need a 3rd or 4th down.
But if it's not him on the receiving end, who's he going to throw to?
He'll throw it to himself. Throw it off his own lineman, their defensive lineman's hand. Just to close the loop on what I was saying, Mitchell had between 3rd and 4th downs 17 plays where it was 3rd or 4th down. They were 2 of 11 on 3rd down. They were 3 of 6 on 4th down.
Not bad on 4th down.
It's just too. You can't be in that spot as many times, especially if Brookings is going to be in that spot 10 times and convert 8. It's just too unbalanced.
Yeah, well, of the 17, you convert 5 of the 17. You get 2 first downs on 3rd. You get 3 on 4th. Again, the other big play in that first half, it was 4th and 1 from the 11. Logan Bessler gets it a half a ball short, a full ball short, gets to the 10.5-yard line. Another long sustained drive where they were knocking inside the 10-yard line, couldn't get it in. So Mitchell proved they can move the ball against Brookings and just couldn't score any points again. So you've got Spearfish here coming up Friday nights, and this is kind of that interesting game of, okay, where does Mitchell stand? Are they kind of where they were last year, where no doubt Mitchell's better than they were last year, but are the wins going to be there? Are they still going to be a 1 or a 2-win team? And, Spearfish, not bad. You make the long trip. But considering Mitchell's schedule, this is a game that you look at. It's like, okay, this is, again, win the games and be competitive in the games that you have to be. Yankton and not O'Gorman, but Brandon Valley, those are just like, well, we got to play them. But this is a game where in the past, you've been able to play with Spearfish, and you feel like one of these weeks, Mitchell's going to score those touchdowns. They're going to break a long run off at some point against one of these teams, not counting Douglas. So, big game for Mitchell as far as can you win games in which it should be a competitive game.
Well, and Spearfish is a team that not long ago wasn't winning very many games, and they have been much more respectable here lately. So, Mitchell, in a way, is trying to kind of emulate some of what Spearfish has done and build back a program. So, making that trip out west, I know maybe it gets a little bit overblown, but I tend to think that's a really just difficult thing to do.
Yes.
It's been like there's not many teams that go all the way out there and just straight up take care of business. There's usually some funky stuff that happens. We talked about it with Pierre just a little bit ago, and what happened out there last year. So tough trip for Mitchell upcoming. And was Spearfish ranked this week?
They were not. Yeah, so if they win and Pierre were to lose, you would expect maybe Spearfish to be Spearfish and Brookings, especially Brookings. It'll be interesting to see how good Spearfish is.
And I always think about you develop narratives in your head. You develop narratives that are true based on the facts. Last year, 43-0 in this game. It was the Colonel Bowl game. I feel like that's an outlier in this series because the 2 years before that, Mitchell won 35-28. 3 years before that, Mitchell lost 26-21. I would expect this game to be in a one-score or maybe two-score territory either way. I think Mitchell, I have not seen a lick of Spearfish football yet this season, but I have a feeling Mitchell's going to move the ball. But you look, Spearfish has not given up a lot so far this season. They gave up 20-some points to T, and they gave up 6 points to Rapid City Central. And we know that Rapid City Central is not the strongest team, but that shows that they have a little bit of defensive ability. So I feel like this game probably going to be in the high teens to 20s probably. I think what we saw from Mitchell last week shows they've got a little bit of defense, but can they put it together? Can they get all three phases to work together in this game to stay in the game? It's going to be a one-score contest in my book, and can they make the winning plays at the end to pull this out? Because Mitchell has not played a ton of really close games. There's not a lot of players on this team that have played a lot of really close games.
Well, I believe Spearfish played a two-quarterback system
in years past
last year, and I think both those kids are back. I know the one was a sophomore last year, so certainly he is. I haven't dug deep into the roster yet to double check, but I believe it was Coat and Hughes. If those guys are both still on the roster, that's just a wrinkle that not many teams throw at you, where you have to be prepared for two different kind of styles depending on who's taking the snap.
Just to illustrate my point, this will be the 21st game in the Pat Larson era. They've played 3 games that have been decided by one score. The
two game versus Huron?
2 games against Huron, and the game in 2023 against Spearfish that they won at home 35-28. Everything else has been wider than that. So, we have not seen Mitchell in that spot a whole lot.
The rest of 11AA this week, you have Yankton versus Douglas. Very well could be the best team versus the worst team in the class. Good old at least a 5-hour drive on bus to Yankton. Game of the week, though, number 2 T hosting number 5 Huron. Another test for Huron. How good are these Huron Tigers?
Who's going to win?
I think T.
Okay.
But this is, again, another game. Well, I'm going to vote next week. I'm interested to see Huron and T. I need that 3-game sample size. And something we talked about preseason, Rapid City Central, Rapid City Stevens, again. It'd be nice to get them in AA because Spearfish and Central, 14-6, much more competitive. And you've got Sturgis at Rapid City Stevens on Saturday, and I would expect Sturgis to win that game. So at least these teams playing those AA games, it'd be much more competitive for the Rapid City schools if they could play a AA schedule. But a couple of nice games in AA with Huron at T and Pierre going to Watertown. So some more things to figure out in 11 AA.
Should provide a little bit of clarity for next week.
11 AAA, more Saturday games. Brandon at O'Gorman. Harrisburg goes out to take on Rapid City Central. Game of the week, usually past couple weeks, we've mentioned the big games with Wagner and Freeman, but you have another rematch of a championship game from a year ago. This in 11A between number 1 Sioux Falls Christian and number 2 Lennox. We really didn't get a whole lot decided last week when Madison and Del Rapids played. That was a 21-20 final. Madison victorious over Del Rapids. So we'll see if there's some separation here between Sioux Falls Christian and Lennox.
Yeah, I mean, those were 2 excellent games those teams played against each other a year ago. Sioux Falls Christian won by, I think it was 11 in the regular season, and then Lennox wins by 8 in the Dome. So, I mean, those 2 have been the 2 best teams pretty much unequivocally in 11A since the start of last year. And this obviously is kind of for the early lead, the pole position in that class here 3 weeks into this season.
Landon, based on the Gridiron Report this week, you are a budding expert on rivalries. Is this a rivalry in 11A already?
It certainly seems to be among the emerging ones, right?
It's smoldering.
Because one thing I don't just look at long-term history for the rivalry aspect because we have so much, there's so many different co-ops now than there were even like 10 or 15 years ago. And Sioux Falls Christian was not in 11A until 6 or 7 years ago, I want to say now. So they haven't played Lennox a lot, but I would assume if you go back and look at those contests, I'm assuming several of them have been pretty close. And yeah.
I would just point out the caliber of the games, at least last year, were that way. I would expect this year to be a relatively close game as well. If not, whoever wins this game asserts themselves as a pretty big favorite power in this division. So I'm excited to see exactly how things might unfold here.
And as long as those two teams kind of continue to be the class of that class, you'd have to point to that as a premier rivalry.
Everybody else in the class has kind of come and gone, and maybe the only other exception would be Del Rapids because they've
been pretty consistent.
They've been pretty consistent, but Canton has come and gone. West Central's come and gone a little bit. Madison to a degree as well. So that points to these teams as well.
Will it be a Donnybrook?
I believe so.
Good.
And it's in Sioux Falls, right?
It is in Sioux Falls.
At the Bob.
The Bulb.
It is in Sioux Falls. Other area teams, some unranked matchups. Looking to pick up some wins this week. 11B, you have Woonsocket, Wessington Springs, Sanborn Central going up to Webster. You've got Bridgewater, Emory, Ethan. They should beat Beersford by a pretty good margin. And you've got Trippa-Delmont Armour, Andy Central Dakota Christian versus Scotland Menno. 11B classes there.
9 and AA for the Scotland Menno game.
Scotland Menno game. The other 9, man, you got Platte Geddes versus Kimball White Lake. Howard hosting Chester Garrettson at Canastota. Platte Geddes, probably a team that, good 2 years ago, fell back last year, but they're a team that, got Kimball White Lake this week, and they're 3-0, and they've got some winnable games here. Marcus, Platte Geddes may be a team that looking at who's going to emerge in one of these classes, and Platte Geddes currently ranked 4th in 9A, and they should stick around here. Another good bounce back year for the Black Panthers.
That's true. They do play. Their schedule gets tougher here in the next 4 to 5 weeks. They play all the teams in their conference that are traditionally pretty good. So they still have Parkston out of them. They still have Bonholm. Kimball White Lake is one of those teams. Woolsey Wessington has dropped off, but they do have them still ahead. So, we've talked about it for a few weeks now that we're looking for other contenders, other teams to watch in 9A. I think Platte Geddes is one of those teams. I liked that they showed a second gear or third, fourth gear to get away from Gregory last week and win that game. So they're 3-0, and it's things become a little bit more cyclical, or they move a little bit more in 9A and 9B where you have just a little bit more turnover. Bruce Hansen's a really good coach. He's done a good job with that program, so it's nice to see Platte Geddes bounce back. And Kimball White Lake, watch them against Parkston. They just did not have the offensive firepower in that game to hang with them. Defense is always solid for them, so I would expect that game to be, on the lower scoring side, but Platte Geddes still could put up some points.
One thing I always like about this Platte Geddes Kimball White Lake game is a lot of these kids are really good friends with each other because a lot of them are wrestlers, and that's a full wrestling co-op right there. I've taken in that game, I believe, twice in my time with the paper, and it strikes me as two teams that are very intimately familiar with the personnel that the other one has, and usually a fun game.
I always have the problem of you get introduced to these guys as wrestlers a lot of times, and then they get to football season. You're on. What team are you on? Yeah. You're on this team. Okay, got it. So, and then they play baseball. The baseball lines are blurred too, so it becomes a little confusing where exactly everybody fits in.
Also, to echo just a little bit of what Marcus said, I was impressed with the way Platte pulled away from Gregory a week ago. I think they can really show me something here against Kimball White Lake if they take care of business, and if they beat the Wildcats, I would think they're going to be 6-0 heading into those last 2 weeks of the season against Parkston and Bonholm.
Woolsey Wessington next week for Platte. They're still looking for their first win. You touched a little bit on the Gridiron Report, looking at some rivalries over the past couple of decades. I imagine, I think this would have been a fun project to look back at, and you got the results. Was this a fun project? You looked back at the last 20 years, and what specifically were your criteria here for the best rivalries in high school football?
Yeah, it was a lot of tabs open at one time.
Labor intensive for Landon. Landon took the lead, so all credit to him on this one.
I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. I didn't necessarily have any concrete criteria. Certainly, one thing that instantly jumped out is if you're a series that has 20 plus games played and both teams have won about 10 times, I instantly circled you and wanted to give you a mention. If just the series has been close, even if there's not quite as many matchups, but then those matchups have come late in the postseason or always are decided, like the Parkston-Hanson game is one I highlighted, even though those teams haven't traditionally played each other until the last 7 years or so. It's literally almost every one of these games they played has been close, and that's kind of just a fun regional rivalry that I hope continues to be on the schedule, even though they are not in the same conference. Again, for a long time, they were not even playing the same type of football because Hanson has been 9-man forever, and Parkston was 11-man for a long time.
10-man, like 10-man.
Yeah, just mean
we'll give you a guy, we take away.
Well, they've never been on the same level. When Parkston was Class A for a little while, now they're down to Class B for the other sports. Hanson's Class A. What I liked about the story was it sort of confirmed some things that we thought were out there. Like, we had the perception that Harrisburg and O'Gorman have played a ton of times. They have played a ton of times.
Even though Harrisburg's only been in AAA for 7 years or whatever, they've played, is it 13 or 15 times? I forget what it is right now. I think it was, I think it's 13. O'Gorman's up 8-5 in the series, but almost every single one of those games is like a 14-point game or less. The largest margin of victory in the whole series has been 19 points, so nobody gets too far ahead of the other one.
But just you have the belief of some of these teams that play each other, and there were some we thought, like, let's look into them, but we didn't know what the status was. Like Bridgewater, Emory, Ethan, and Sioux Valley, I think are still in the same conference, so they play pretty much every year, but that hasn't happened as many times as we maybe when it's only once a year, it's not as big of a deal. Winner, EPJ has been one as of late, but again, they're
got to be a playoff.
They're 150 miles apart. Yeah,
huge matchups. They've only played, I think, 5 times, which just given the magnitude of their games, you'd have felt they played 10 times. Double what they have. But it was a really fun project to look into, and hopefully all the Max Preps data was correct. I have to take some of that at face value, but
100%. I tell reporters that all the time. It's like, don't put your life on Max Preps.
We talked a lot. Obviously, we talk a lot about Mitchell on this podcast. I had a little note about Mitchell in there. We both coaches, no matter who it is, of that football rivalry, always says you can throw out the records. It's always close. Well, the history backs that up. Even though Mitchell is ahead in the series, every single game, 2 scores or less, almost guaranteed.
I hate it when cliches are right, but they're cliches for a reason, because a lot of times that stuff ends up being true.
Including four straight 1-score games. I didn't realize that.
A continuous streak here?
Yeah.
Continuing this year. South Dakota Gridiron Report. Best rivalries of the last 20 years. You had Pierre and Yankton, Canastota.
30 times.
We didn't rank them, by the way. They were just, we didn't rank who was number one.
I just tried to highlight some different types of rivalries.
Yeah. Canastota, Howard. Again, all these, you're probably looking at playoff games. Harrisburg and O'Gorman, as you mentioned. Hanson Parkston, some recent history. And then way down at the bottom of the list. Yeah, West Central and Del Rapids.
Yeah, which they are playing each other again. That's good. So
last year they didn't. Stunner. Yeah. Got some volleyball. Let's touch on some volleyball. Now, I don't have my hotel in Rapid booked yet. I'm looking. Mitchell volleyball at Harrisburg this week. They lose 3-0. Harrisburg, I think it's 82 in a row.
Yeah, and the other thing that jumped out to me is they're playing in this tournament in Las Vegas coming up next weekend. 64 teams. They might go and not win many games. That will not say anything about how good they are, because they are really good, but they're going to get an incredible challenge in that tournament. But Harrisburg's really good. There's just not a lot more you can say other than they're going to overwhelm so many teams this year. And I wouldn't necessarily say Mitchell was overwhelmed at certain parts of that match. So
Harrisburg's won 82 in a row. They've won 3 straight AA titles. Yeah, they go to this Las Vegas tournament. Was this in a few weeks here? They go off, and there's not been a team that's run a winning streak up like this since the Roosevelt girls basketball team, late 90s, early 2000s, when they went over 100 in a row. And similar to this, Roosevelt went out to a tournament in Oregon, like 99, 2000 in that era. And the big debate at the time, I remember, was, well, when they lose these games, is that going to affect their 100-game winning streak? Or are we going to say, you know what, these games don't count because they're not against South Dakota teams? And it didn't matter because they won both of the games out in Oregon, and they ended up being ranked at least 25th in the USA Today National girls basketball poll.
I think Harrisburg has been in the top 25 of the Max Preps rankings at the end of last season, maybe even 2 seasons ago as well. I should rephrase what I said before. They absolutely can go out there and play
who knows who these teams
knows?
are?
There's a lot of local teams to Nevada and
because
California and Colorado.
They did a similar thing, I think, last year, right? They played in Kansas City or
they didn't go
Wichita or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd expect maybe a Vegas tournament to draw, some more West Coast, multiple region representatives, whereas that one was probably mostly Midwest, wherever they played. I believe it was Kansas City or something like that. But they went and won that thing.
Yeah,
I don't see a reason why they couldn't go and win.
I heard on the broadcast that Omaha Scott is going to this, and then they turn around and play them like when they get back or something. So they're apparently, not that they're going to play them in Vegas, but one of the teams that's already on their schedule is going to be there too.
Harrisburg, they've got Gabby Zachariason, who was the player of the year last year, and she'll be the player of the year this year. And I know both of us, Marcus, were stunned a couple years ago when, as a freshman, she was not.
She was the best player in the state.
She did
probably, and was not on the All-State team.
Didn't make the All-State team as a freshman, and we were like, "What?"
She wasn't even on the All-ESD team.
No, it's like, what?
Yeah, that was the outrage.
As a freshman, and obviously she'll be, player of the year last year. Very likely this year, barring injury. Just a stunner.
She might have it locked up right now if she wants to make the rest till the postseason.
Harrisburg's got 4 matches in. They're 4-0. Mitchell, they played 7 times. They're 4-3. Yeah, a good showing against Harrisburg. First set was competitive. Third set was competitive. So I guess this really was the big test for me. So, okay, how good is Mitchell? They have 2 wins versus Sturgis. They've beat Brookings. They were 4-0 against AA teams. They stopped Pierre last week, and years of winning 3, 4, 5 matches, that appears to be over. They're basically they basically have clinched a SODAC 16 spot already with 4 wins. They've not made the SODAC 16 in the past 2 seasons, and you look at their schedule, a lot of wins coming up. It finally seems like Mitchell volleyball has turned a corner. They've got Audrey Miller. They've got maybe an all-state type hitter. They've still got Addie Simpson. It seems like now it's. Did you do the preview?
I did not do the preview. I believe Landon did the preview.
And was it like Deb Thill was kind of like, no, not SODAC 16. We're looking at a top 8 seed here. We want to host a SODAC 16 game. It's not like, we just want to make it. They haven't done that in 3 seasons. And you look at Mitchell, it's kind of like, they kind of look like maybe a 7 or an 8 seed in that state tournament.
Well, they brought back practically everybody who played last year. And so there's a lot of continuity there, and with an extra year of experience, and especially experience just playing with each other, given that they were a young team a year ago. I think that's gone a long way here early. I've only watched them in that Pierre match that you referenced, but they looked really good to me in that 3-set win. So I would assume there's a lot more victories coming here for the Colonels.
They've got a lot more length on that front line. They've got 5'10", 6 feet, 6'2". It starts there. You need a little bit of length at the net. Yeah,
and Deb Thill has been honest in the years where they haven't had it, and they've done the best they could to try to block other teams when they're trying to make attacks. To me, there were just too many years where Mitchell, it was taking a very long time to develop their players, so that when they got to be a senior, it was too late. They just have that 1 year, and then they graduate, and that's it. And they've got a few players that are a little bit on the younger side. Audrey Miller is a senior, but she has jumped right in and really upped her ability to be a quality hitter. They have Addie Simpson, who they've moved around a lot, and I think I don't know if she's a natural setter. She's just a really good athlete, but she's doing a good job as a setter, and they've got things kind of working on that front. They've got a few pretty good servers from what I've seen so far. That's been a nice element as well. So you have to be pleased with what you've seen. I'm really interested to see these next 6, 7, 8 matches, because that will at least tell us, are they a state tournament caliber team? How do they match up with sort of that,
middle of the pack,
4 through 10 section? And so that's what I want to see. But I am happy for the program to be rewarded and make some progress, and to have it happen when they're not playing in an old dingy sticky gym is a good thing too.
Yeah, they've been playing in the big gym.
Yeah.
Or whatever we want to call it. The main gym.
We've been joking. Somebody said it should be Papa Gym, Mama Gym, Baby Gym for the 3 gyms that they have there. But yeah. And I know Corey Odlin, joked with Corey Odlin after the first match, because the one side of the gym has the chair backs, He's like, yeah, we might have people getting a little too comfortable to change gyms. I think they will at some point move to the move to the middle gym, but
yes,
so
they are planning to play. This is like a bye week.
Yeah, it is.
They play Tuesday. They don't play for another 9 days. They've got the entire week off. Kind of a bye week here at the third away into the season.
Got to talk to the schedule makers, get that a little later. The NFL jobbed them on that.
Yeah, they host Yankton coming up Thursday next week, the 18th. That'll be our first Mitchell radio broadcast on KORN, and hopefully, I guess the auxiliary gym is what they call it. Yeah. The middle gym is where they hope to play, and the bleachers and everything. So they'll get to see their first match in the gym in which they will usually play most of their matches. Yankton, not so good, 2-6. And then they've got Brookings the following week, not so good, also at 2-6. So yeah, some wins to be had. Mitchell volleyball, they've already eclipsed the 3-win mark from last season, already at 4-3 here, and getting some seed points there as well. So college rank, South Dakota State beat Montana State 30-24.
Was that a big game?
That was a big game, the biggest of all the games, 2 overtime victory. Was it kind of clunky? What was this game where SDSU almost lets it go on a muffed punt? It seemed like SDSU was the better team. They almost let it slip away. Great win for them, as they're solid number 2 right now behind North Dakota State. But, I mean, this was the signature win of the season, and kind of to say, yeah, South Dakota State, they got some new faces, new quarterback, new coach, but they're probably just as good as they have been.
Yeah, I thought of you a little bit because you would be the one.
Why wouldn't you?
You would, well, yeah, yes. But you'd be the one that said it wasn't the best game, great finish.
But it was exciting.
It was exciting. A lot of interesting things happened during the game. I think their defense is really good, even against a Montana State team. I'm just impressed they went on the road and won this game in a cauldron of 22,000 people. I didn't think they were going to do that. I didn't think they would. And when they got down to the end of the game, Chase Mason made a few really good throws. Lofton Ogroski appears to be a guy. He made 11 catches and was just really tough to stop. He had some, Justin Jefferson caliber receptions that he made there towards the end. And, I think that's as good a challenge as they're going to get for a while now until they play NDSU. And for them to be 2-0, really impressive against what I think is probably going to end up being 2 playoff teams, and Montana State very well could be in the semis again. There could be a match down the road. That game should be in Brookings now if things play out accordingly for the Jacks. And so really impressive. And for this to be a new group and new faces, and for them to be able to go and do that was good. There were moments in the game where SDSU wasn't taking control of the game. Montana State didn't take control of the game. Montana State was a little conservative at the end when they had a chance maybe to drive down and make something happen, but they've got a new quarterback just like SDSU does. So ultimately, really good signs, I think, if you're a Jackrabbit follower.
Lofton Ogroski is only a sophomore, so hopefully you can keep him. And money is a big deal for transfers. But maybe if they see, the grass isn't always greener, do I go somewhere else, make some money, or do I stay here? Maybe solidify your NFL standing, because they've got plenty of tight ends in the NFL. It's not impossible to make the NFL and be a really good player out of South Dakota State. So
I will say it's been interesting to watch Washington State the first couple weeks, and how many players are playing for them that were at South Dakota State, and frankly, how few players are playing. A lot of the players that they brought over are on defense, and the few players on offense are the running backs. Angel Johnson's gotten some run. Kirby Voorhees has gotten some run. Maxwell Woods has not really been a big part of the picture, and I think Jimmy Rogers said that, I got to play the best players, and it's interesting when you put the guys that came with you with the other guys they brought in, the guys that were there, and you compare them side by side, and all of a sudden you guys start making some decisions about who's going to play.
It's always interesting when somebody follows the coach. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay.
Which I don't blame them. They gave you the opportunity to become a solid college football player. You have a chance to follow them, see what's going to happen there, but it doesn't always work.
No. And sometimes it's to your detriment. It's like, okay, it's a level up. You follow the coach. He recruited you. You like the coach, but sometimes it doesn't end up being the right move. So SDSU, big 2 overtime win at Montana State last week. USD, however, not so good.
Uh-oh.
They lose at Lamar. Lamar Odom.
Who's Lamar?
Lamar Odom.
Some dude named Lamar?
Former Laker great Lamar Odom.
This game in Beaumont, Texas, you can see the oil refinery in the background of the stadium. I mean, that's where we're way down
deep.
there.
We're deep in Texas.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
USD 17-point favorite. They lose 20-13, and as I do, you look at the schedule. This is at least a 4-loss team. Playoffs on the already 2 weeks in. You start 0-2. This was a bad loss against Lamar. USD's at home for the first time. Northern Colorado. Saturday chance to pick up their first win. But
I'll say it. You have to win. You
you have to.
win.
If not, you're done. Your season is done.
It's not a walkover. Northern Colorado has been a walkover in the past. They didn't even beat Colorado State. Maybe should have beaten Colorado State, depending on if the ref was wearing his glasses
Did
or
Dez
not.
catch it?
Did Dez catch it? Dez caught it.
Did Dez catch it?
So
I mean, you look, they've got North Dakota State, South Dakota State, they've got UND, they've got Illinois State.
Yeah.
I mean, 6-5 is not going to get you in. It's going to be real tough.
I don't
Is
think
that 3 straight games in the Dakota Dome?
I think from
Yes,
now
Illinois
into
State. Illinois State, North Dakota,
Yep.
SDSU.
Yep. So
crap.
that's at the end of the season.
That's a wild scheduling quirk.
Trips to Terre Haute. Hello.
Terre Haute.
Trips to
Go
Fargo.
visit
The
So-
federal penitentiary.
That's right. Go visit the Fed pen while you're there.
They got to win this game. They've got Drake next week, so a chance to.
That's
That's
this
a
was
win.
17-point favorite. You lose this game at Lamar. They got off to a good start, but yeah, USD they dropped to 12 in the poll. I'm surprised they didn't drop more than that.
I think it's hard to know where exactly you're going to rank these teams because I know you can't kill them for losing to Iowa State. That's the big issue.
And I will be fair to Lamar. They did win 7 games a year ago.
Yeah.
Maybe they're improved a little bit too and could be a factor in the South. We don't know.
And from what I gathered, they were up for this game. You get a top 5 team coming to your house. They want to win this. So no question they threw their best shot at USD. My sticking point here is they just have not been sharp at all offensively. They're in
50% completion ain't gonna get it done.
They're in the bottom 20 in FCS in completion percentage, time of possession, scoring offense, all these key third down percentage. They're brutal. They're in the 20-some%, and they're allowing, I think, their opponents 50-some% on third downs. Again, I realize Iowa State skews those numbers, but they did not play well enough to beat Lamar.
And if they've solidified themselves as this top 5 team with good playoff runs the last couple years, and if you're going to be that top 5 team, you don't lose these games. These other teams that we talk about all the time, that's in the top 5, they're not losing to Lamar. They're just not losing these games.
I know someone has to do it, but to have to open your conference season in Fargo,
not easy,
is for a team that is going through what they're going through right now appears to be not ideal.
The only thing I would say is they're going to be desperate now, and sometimes desperation can summon something. So I'm really eager to see what happens with the Coyotes this week. I think we're going to have to see it this week. How do they come out the gate? Yeah. And are they able to just stomp Northern Colorado, beat them 38-10? That's what you want to see if you're a USD fan.
Yeah, both SDSU and USD at home. Wrapping it up, I thought this past week of college football at the FBS level was great. I thought week 1 really bad. I thought this was a fantastic week of football, Marcus. Hopefully there's another week like this somewhere. I would not be surprised if this was the best week of college football that we end up getting, because I've got 15 games here that I thought, all of these were fantastic.
You loved Oregon, Oklahoma State.
No, can I run down these barn burners here?
Go ahead.
James Madison, Louisville was a good game, 28-14. Louisville doesn't cover the 15 points. James Madison, first play of the game, receiver pass. Guy's wide open. Can't get it to him. That was a big free touchdown, James Madison. Very competitive. This was a 20-14 game with 5 minutes to go. So, hoping James Madison could have pulled that out. They lose by 2 touchdowns. Troy up on Clemson 16-0 would have been the upset of the year. Clemson comes back 27 straight points.
The weather. It was a factor.
Mississippi State with the biggest win, second biggest win. Mississippi State beats Arizona State 24-20. Exciting game.
Cowbells.
Long 60-70-yard touchdown in the final minute to win it for Mississippi State, and a $500,000 fine for rushing the field.
Do what you got to do.
My game of the day was South Florida beating Florida 18-16.
The spitting. We saw the spitting again in that game, and it was crucial to the outcome.
We've never seen the spitting before. Now we're seeing all the spits
That's right.
at one time.
Iowa State, Iowa, that was your game. You loved
It
that.
was every Iowa State game I've ever seen. I'm like, how is Iowa going to back into a win? Long drive for Iowa State, field goal. Long drive, field goal. Muffed punt, all this
I'm assuming we all got to watch a considerable amount
Watch
of
all
that
this game. I saw a lot
ball
of it. Game.
Am I like? I get maybe I'm a Mark Renowski
Let's have the
stan.
talk. Let's have it.
Iowa State's receiving core is bad.
Iowa's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I say?
You
Sorry.
said Iowa. Yeah.
Iowa's receiving core is bad.
Well, not usually.
Nobody's open.
Nobody's open. That's.
Final drive, they had their final drive. They're down 3. They got the length of the field. It's like, 3rd and 25. There's just nobody. They're rushing 3. He's just standing back there. There's nobody open.
It's a multifaceted thing of he's taking too long back there. The receivers aren't getting open. I don't think they're calling the right plays for him. It's just all bad. All bad.
I'm a big fan of Josh Pate.
Pate State.
Yes, sir. And Josh Pate said it best on his show this week. Fans were hopeful that Mark Renowski was going to happen to Iowa. It appears Iowa has happened to Mark Renowski.
God, you hate to see that.
You take a dude that has 11,000 career all-purpose yards and 2 national championships, and it looks like he can't throw the football.
What was the stat where he has the fewest passing yards of any Big Ten quarterback ever in his first 2 starts?
The cherry picking stats, yeah.
Like 1143 passing yards.
127 for what it's worth.
Albany.
The lowest amount of passing yards in games played before 5 o'clock, before October 1. Yeah.
Bad. Iowa's got UMass. If you don't win that by 30, just...
If they don't show something relatively soon, Mark Renowski probably isn't going to be the quarterback.
Benched.
Because there will be a scapegoat. It's either going to be the offensive coordinator or it's going to be... And by the way, this is Kirk Ferentz. There is nobody else to blame in this scenario. This is how he wants to play. This is how he's played for many, many years because the offensive coordinator, the quarterback,
you can't tell me,
changes.
Based on everything that we heard going into this year, that this is the way that Tim Lester wants this offense to play. Like, run it up the middle on first down, run it up the middle on second down, pass on third, and hopefully 3.
Kyle Conrarity, the Iowa State kicker, he is a kicker. I think he made the kick last year to win it with like 55 plus.
54 both times.
54 this year. Big kick for him. So, yeah, Iowa State escapes with their
He
lives.
had a 63-yarder against the Oats.
Yeah, he's a big-time kicker. That's a nice weapon to have. And also South Florida with a Gramatica. He's the son of the oldest Gramatica. South Florida 18-16. And they've got Florida this week on the CW. And that's the game I'm most interested in.
Biggest CW game they've ever had.
XFL 2001. You got to go back that far. That was my game of the week. That's the one I was most interested in. And ditto Miami, South Florida this week. Baylor SMU played a Big 12 48-45 overtime game. Kentucky gave Ole Miss a scare 30-23. NC State Virginia playing a non-conference game.
By the way, I like that. They just wanted to play each other. So they did. Like, there needs to be a little bit more of that because we're blowing up all these rivalries that should still be happening, so there should be more of that.
And NC State wins that 35-31. I thought Missouri-Kansas
That was a
great game, 42-31 at the 2:30 window. Kansas gets up right away, 21-6. And then Kansas gets the ball for all of 56 seconds in the second quarter. You're tied at 21. Missouri with a late touchdown to cover on like a 60-yarder. They're just trying to run out the clock. So they win 42-31. That's the first time those teams have played in 14 years.
That's crazy.
Missouri, Kansas.
And I mean, it was said all of last week, but those teams, those schools, those fans, those states,
they love it.
They hate each other. And it's because one was a slave state and one was a free state. That's part of the deal. When you talk about war, that literally was a war. There was a war over that.
And he had a lot of other games between teams that aren't very good that were,
What do you mean?
Like Michigan State, Boston College, 42-40, and
don't disrespect the Black Knights of the Hudson.
I mean, Army, Kansas
Going to
State.
The Little Apple.
Army beats Kansas State 24-21. Kansas, just high hopes for them, not happening.
Don't play in Ireland. That's the tip. The team that loses when they go over there, it spirals.
How about the Long Island Baby Sharks getting a dub for the FCS?
That was nice. And I saw somebody say they might have to shut down the factory because Eastern Michigan lost at home. That factory They need to make some changes.
Max Crosby needs to allocate the funds elsewhere.
Or George Gervin. One of the two has to, because it ain't right.
Those are the rules. For anybody that maybe looked at Missouri State's over-under,
I did.
this may be a game that was
beat
on. You know what?
But then I heard that Marshall's over-under was 3 or 4 as well. So I didn't realize this was going to be such an evenly matched game. And they were up 21-10. Marshall was up 21-10, and they gave
20-10
up 20-10 and gave up
20-7.
20-7, even worse.
Missouri State with a 21-20 win over Marshall. So a lot of good,
Travis, it's all going to come down to these Tuesday, Wednesday night, middle of the week games that are going to be on CBS Sports Network. That's where this is going to be decided.
So I like that a whole heck of a lot, not even counting the biggest game of the week on paper, Michigan, Oklahoma, which is just kind of there. A lot of good football, a lot of good finishes. Thoroughly enjoyed my Saturday.
The other thing I liked was Minnesota beating Northwestern State 66-0. There's 6 minutes left when lightning strike. They just said, we're done. We don't need to come back and finish. No, we're good.
Did you mention directional schools?
North Texas, and Western Michigan with a damn fight of the century. There's all these games. Like, where's this come from?
I love it.
Where's this come from? 3 games I'm highlighting this week.
And now North Texas, Washington State this week. I'll give that a screen.
Clemson at Georgia Tech. Again, a lot of people like Georgia Tech. Clemson only a 3.5-point favorites.
Clemson by 3 touchdowns.
Clemson with a P.
Clemson. I've got with our friend Nathan, I do my game of the week. The one, like, if I had to pick one game to watch, what would that be? I've got my watch your behind game of the week, where it's like, maybe not an upset, but
not
close,
so fast.
Closer than the experts think. And then my one upset special. I've got this as the watch your behind, Clemson. You got to play a lot better than you have been against Troy to go into Atlanta. So watch out, Georgia Tech, Clemson.
He's one of my friends, but I don't listen to his podcast. So what are your...
I'm on it, and I don't listen to it.
What is your...
I'm going to tell you.
What is your upset special of the week?
Rocky Top, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Rocky Top.
I love it.
Tennessee beating Georgia.
I love that.
Tennessee is a 3.5-point underdog. Georgia not showing me much. Struggling with the P last week.
The weather was an
Struggling with
issue.
Austin P. So, Georgia needs to show me something. Georgia and Tennessee. And Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt over SC.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt in South Carolina. And all of the, like, 3.5.
The real SC.
The real SC.
And
the one that literally is USC.
My game of the week, 2 weeks in a row here, South Florida at Miami. See what you got. Carson Beck can show me something if he torches South Florida.
Yeah.
You want to get on my good side.
Byron Brown, early Heisman favorite if they beat Miami.
Yeah, I don't want to go that far, but South Florida, Miami, I mean, South Florida wins this one. They're probably not.
The battle for South Florida.
But damn, like if any other team, Boise State, Florida, Miami, they're like number 1 or number 2.
I think EJ Manuel said Byron Brown. He had him on his Heisman.
Wow.
It's like, well, yeah, 2 weeks in.
Sure. I mean, they picked this up. It's, the American, a solid conference. You got Navy, you got Memphis, Tulane with the scare at South Alabama, but South Florida.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
Here's my other thing, though. How often do you see the team come out of the gate?
3-touchdown game.
At least in this era.
Which one?
The Tulane game was 3 touchdowns late, and then South Alabama scored.
3. Yeah.
How often do you see the team, the darling, last year was Northern Illinois, come out the gate, start strong? They're not the team.
Well, I mean, they're a lot better than Northern Illinois.
I understand that, but it seems like it always changes hands, before we get to the end of the season. That
I've moved the CW up on my YouTube TV to the top of my channel guide.
They've had some good stuff to watch lately.
Hey, let's get sports on. Let's get some car racing, some wrestling, and some ACC sports on our station.
My guy, Rick Allen, he got bumped off the NASCAR play-by-play, the Xfinity Series, or he had the Cup Series for a while. He had the Washington State-Idaho game week 1. He had SMU Baylor last week. He's bangers only.
Do you think Malachi Nelson and the UTEP Miners can beat Fighting Arch Manning?
No.
EA Sports College Football 26, they do. Yeah. My UTEP season.
Yeah. Florida at LSU, and then Texas A&M at Notre Dame. So on paper, a decent slate. Not as good as last week, better than week 1.
And then my Gophers go to Cal. They're the late show this week.
Take a nap.
Get your rest.
Everyone wake up and watch FS1. The Huskers host Houston Christian.
11 a.m.
Just padding those stats here early on. May I say one NASCAR note to wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
They've got like an Australian guy calling these races. Have you heard this?
Lee Diffie, yep.
Yeah, not a fan.
Oh,
He's fine.
he's good.
It's like NASCAR, I want like Marlboro commercials, which are outlawed. I want, an Australian guy calling NASCAR. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was doing IndyCar before. He did a good job. He's a good announcer.
Like he's fine. Obviously, he's a good announcer.
Yeah.
Like put a Southern guy on the F1.
Wow.
On the IndyCar.
Well, they would hate that too.
Yeah, put one of those guys. Put one of those guys on one of those broadcasts. It's the same thing. It's like
Darrell Waltrip. Put Darrell Waltrip on the
boogity,
F1.
boogity, boogity. Marcus, Landon, where are we going to be at? I'm going to make the long trip to Spearfish. What's on? I got those 2 games, Avon, Corsica, Stickney, Hanson, Parkston, I guess, highlighting the local slate.
I'm going to be at Avon, Corsica, Stickney for a while.
All right.
I'm going to make the long trip down to the office and watch the Colonels and Spearfish.
Yep.
There we go.
We got a couple other people on the 2 games we mentioned earlier. So MVP and Wagner and Hanson and Parkston. So yeah, it's
good slate this week.
Good slate of games, and you look for those games when some of these teams get close to Mitchell. So that's kind of why Avon's on the radar this week, and Wagner, same thing for Wagner. So interested to see how those games fall out.
KORNer booth, longest one yet. Marcus, Travis, Landon. We'll see you here next week. Got Mitchell football coming up next.